Buenos tardes, mi amigos.
We can't.
The
Apparently, we can't.
telenovela version of the Todd Alba show.
That would be great.
We'll have to do that as a
Mar.
bit someday.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
Oye, Patrick.
Yeah, maybe next year we can just do the whole show in Spanish on April
Oye,
1st.
Patrick. Soy muy cansado porque no está aquí
Don't
contigo.
know why. Just you could have done the Rush bit all day long.
No, that might have got me fired.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with our standing producer, Mr. Aaron Zommers, on the board. It is 6 past the hour of 12 noon on this Tuesday. April, I saw quite low and I almost said Wednesday. It is Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. It is a great day to be a Wisconsinite. Welcome in, everybody, from our world headquarters studios of Civic Media in downtown Madison. Sun's out, a little chilly, but the sun is out. 30s, maybe low 40s in some places in Wisconsin today, and then perhaps 70 by the end of the weekend going into Monday. Some snow coming in, though, tomorrow night in the southern part of the state. Flurries, maybe they're calling it an inch of slushiness.
Gross.
An inch of slushiness. That never sounds good to me.
This is why I don't like spring.
I know. But anyway, spring is here. Spring is on its way. Big show today in hour number 2. Have a little fun with What's Worse, an HVAC edition. Speaking of changing weather, what's worse, turning on the heat or turning on the air conditioning? So we'll talk about that in hour number 2. Lots of serious news to get to, but we start out now as we do on Tuesdays, Todd, not Wednesdays. He is the host of Up North News Radio every morning from 6 until 8 across the Civic Media Radio Network. Joining us as he works remotely today, the one, the only, you know him, you love him, Patrick Jerome Kreitlow.
How many Todd Albas does it take to change a light bulb? The answer, change. But you did it, man. You changed. We made the change to Tuesday. We're almost there.
Yeah,
We're
lots
almost
of change in the air these days. By
yes.
The way.
Somewhere there's got to be a Geico camel someplace saying Tuesday, and then all will be right with the world.
Yes, all will be right with the world.
Mhm.
It's great to see you, Pat. It's great. Thanks for joining us. You're out in beautiful Idaho, checking out the Posse Comitatus. Is that right? Or,
No, that is
okay.
not what I'm doing.
Or is it the trade war of Wisconsin potato farmers versus
Yes.
Idaho potato farmers?
Yes, out here in
All right.
potato country, where I don't think I've told the story on this. If I did, it was a long time ago. Sorry if there was any internet hiccup there. But
That's all good.
we're in a part of the state that does still have what's called potato break or spud break, where the school districts shut down for 2 weeks in the fall so that kids can go help with the potato harvest.
Really?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yes. In fact, last year sometime, I think, CBS Sunday Morning did a wonderful feature on it that I would highly recommend. If anybody doesn't believe me, look up Potato Break or Idaho Schools Spud Break, and you'll see what we're talking about. It's quite the slice of Americana over
I
here.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, back when I was in high school, we essentially got off the unofficial day at the farm kids, quote unquote, got Thursday off of County Fair week, and then pretty much everybody got Friday off of County Fair week. And so
that makes sense.
you always wanted to be a farm kid or in 4-H so you could take your animals in and enter them in the county fair. So I think that's a part of rural Wisconsin, rural America, where that's still very, very important.
Yes, very much so. And in some school districts, it's almost a holiday at the gun deer season. You know,
Yeah.
that Friday or that Monday, they'll be like, well, there's nobody here anyway. Let's shut her down.
Might as well. Lots to get to, Pat, this week, and I just want to get your thoughts on this. Several places you could find it: Journal Sentinel, Wisconsin Public Radio on their site, And this comes to us from late yesterday afternoon from the great publication here in Madison, the Daily Cardinal. I don't even like to call it student journalism anymore. They're really journalists who happen to be students because some of these folks are just really, really great reporters and great writers. This happens to come from Ella Henley, I apologize. Headline, 13 UW-Madison visas terminated by U.S. government. Chancellor Mnuchin says it's not tied to, quote-unquote, protest activity. This broke late yesterday afternoon. It's still really a fluid story. What we know so far from reporting is there were a total of 13 individuals, 6 who are current UW-Madison international students, and 7 alumni who are still here on what's called visa employment extensions, which were notified yesterday without notice that their visas had been, quote, immediately terminated, and they were to leave the country with no grace period. Pat, this is something I know a little bit about, having been involved in immigration, but also student visas. But before we get into my take, I want your take on this breaking story.
Well, keep in mind as well that this is a national story. It started off as, a local story out of Madison, and then you'd see another local report somewhere else in the country, and finally folks kind of stitched it all together. And at last report that I saw, and it may be more than this by now, but we're talking at least 150 students at campuses around the country that have had their visas terminated immediately. They have to leave the country immediately, not at the end of their semester, not at the end of the school year, not at the end of any special project they might be working on for their, to become a master's or anything like that. They have to leave immediately. None of them are known to be terrorists. None of them are known to be members of MS-13. So you are left with, and there's nobody that can tell me otherwise, you are left with a blend of racism and xenophobia as the only explanation why you would kick out immediately people who are trying to get an education, better themselves, take the experience of being in what used to be the greatest nation on earth and take it back to their home countries. And instead, we are sinking lower into the abyss that we have people in charge so jingoistic that they say, you're whatever kind of foreigner you are, get out of our country. What the hell were these people thinking in saying, yep, let's cancel all these student visas? I honestly don't know.
It would appear on the face of it so far that everything you said is true, and just add on that, and this has been said by others, that cruelty is part of the point here. I've known a lot of folks during my time at UW Richland and UW Platteville, and you know this, Pat, whether it's in Eau Claire, maybe even to a higher degree, Rice Lake, these two-year colleges, where there are fewer minority folks that live in those cities in Wisconsin. These international programs aren't just a great opportunity for folks from other countries to come and get a good education in the UW system and enhance our communities. It's a great chance for us, that in Wisconsin, who aren't particularly in small towns, don't have the opportunity to get to know someone on a personal level from another country, let alone another race, to grow within ourselves. And it just seems cruel what they are doing, what the Trump administration is doing here.
I would invoke, my own wife, Sherry, who went to a very small high school in Manitowoc County. And yet that tiny high school had a foreign exchange student in there from Spain who lived with Sherry's family. He got to learn how a dairy farm operated. And years later, we visited Spain to see the small business the family business that he took over. It was just a wonderful, literal exchange of cultures and learning from one another, as everybody in that small Manitowoc County community did. And to say that this is not something we want anymore in this country is indicative of, in my mind, it's like testing the ice. Is the ice thick enough yet to go out on this? But because first it was gang members, and then it was, mistakenly rounding up people who, weren't in a gang, but we didn't like their tattoos. And now we're doing students here on visas. At some point, where's the line? All right. In Wisconsin last week, we learned where's the line on Supreme Court. What can a billionaire do? Well, apparently when you get to like $20 million, some people get turned off by that. They're doing the same thing with this. Where's the line? If people don't get outraged about this, and sadly, most people won't get outraged by this, but what is the next step? What is the next step? And Todd, When is the point where I'm looking at this camera right now and I see two guys in badges showing up behind you and saying, we've been told that you are being subversive and you are done. And, oh, spare me. People out there in the listening audience going, oh, there he goes. He's going off the. Really? Mm-hmm. Where's the line at this point? Where is the line?
I couldn't agree more. And I put this out on a couple of my social platforms last night, that between what we're seeing here in Madison, and like your point, well, it's someplace else. No, now this is, well, I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know of any place where the Trump ICE entourage has quote unquote disappeared. In other words, just took someone off the street. I don't know of any. I'm not aware of that in Wisconsin proper yet. I know at University of Minnesota, it happened last week. But here in Wisconsin now, it's canceling of legitimate, legal, international student visas. And I'm trying. This is from this Supreme Court decision late yesterday afternoon, which was kind of a complex and mixed bag, essentially telling the Trump administration, look, you have to give people due process before you can deport them into El Salvador, into this gulag type of dog kennel prison for humans. But we're going to allow you to continue to do it for now because you came to us in Washington, D.C. and not in Texas. Basically, you didn't follow the technical rules, and so you can still do it. But moving forward, please be more careful. Do I have that kind of about right, Pat?
Yeah, you basically do. And that's what happened when, again, with Donald Trump winning in 2016, without winning a majority of the popular vote, but winning the Electoral College, able to come in, appoint those 3 more Supreme Court justices. Don't forget the ones that were stolen, earlier from President Obama, and politicize the court to the point where something that would be much like the presidential immunity thing, on its face, that Supreme Court should have immediately said, no, you do not have immunity. Instead, they dawdled for weeks to finally come up and say, well, if, like Nixon said, if the president, does it, it's not a crime. And we're seeing that play out in scenario after scenario, like this one here, and like the one about pausing, another lower court order to rehire 16,000 federal probationary workers. Mm-hmm. Again, the U.S. Supreme Court is enabling this authoritarian time and time again already.
I want to go back to your point, Pat, earlier, that if you think this is just, that's too bad to be a brown person today, think again. This is from Justice Sotomayor's dissent yesterday afternoon, on the Supreme Court's decision giving Trump the green light to keep disappearing people. This is a quote from Justice Sotomayor. Quote, the implication of the government's position is that not only non-citizens, but also United States citizens could be taken off the streets, forced onto planes, and confined to foreign prisons with no opportunity for redress if judicial review is denied unlawfully before removal. History is no stranger to such lawless regimes, but this nation's system of laws is designed to prevent, not enable, their rise. Absolutely chilling from Justice Sotomayor. Talk more about this with Pat Kreitlow on the other side. And as they said, the Jeffersons were moving on up or down. Back after this on the Civic Media Radio Network. It just gives me chills to read that, Pat. It's just,
I know.
It really does.
It's remarkable.
My part-time service in the Army National Guard makes it possible for me to be more for the community I call home. My training helps me
so
at
let's come
work
back
when
and
I
just
lead
pick up
by
on that a
example.
minute. I know
The
Jane
Army
talked
National
briefly
Guard
about it.
has
We're
taught
working on
me
doing a
that I
larger
show
segment
respect
on
to
it,
those
on
I
this
come in
real
contact with
ID
each
stuff coming
day.
up.
My
The
service
deadline next
also
month.
allows
Just
me
spent,
to
spent
be there for my
a second of
community
time,
in
or
ways
a
others
scintilla
can't.
of time
I
on
help my
that.
hometown
All right.
recover
Yeah, I'm not
after
really up to
major
speed on that,
strikes.
but I'll
No,
go
we,
along.
it's just, it's just the fact that, here we are in 2025, and we've now essentially reached the position of be prepared for the phrase, show me your papers.
The Army National Guard
We're there.
education benefits
We're
make getting
practically
a higher
there.
education a reality.
Also, I have moving on up pulled up for whenever you want to get to that.
Oh, you can come back with that. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you wanted to save it for a little bit
Sure,
later.
let's bring it in.
Live and serve part-time close to home by visiting nationalguard.com.
Sponsored by the Wisconsin Army National Guard, aired by the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association and this station.
keeping you connected to your local community with real news and great conversation. Here's Terry Barr with the Civic Media Radio Network.
It's a special anniversary for Mama Cares, part of the Madison Area Music Association. The nonprofit supports musicians and their families facing emergencies. Here's singer-songwriter Robert J. He helped start the group after his own family needed help when his son ended up in the hospital.
They hospitalized him and they realized he had a golf ball size infection in his left temporal lobe and operated immediately. He was in the hospital for 17 days.
30 seconds.
He
Thank
almost
you.
didn't make it.
Well, we're moving on up to the east side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. Moving on up
Wheelie.
to the east side.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 21 past the hour of 12 noon. A classic song, the theme song from the Jeffersons. And we are joined now by the one, the only, the ice skating champion of Lake Wissota, and the host of Up North News Radio from 6 until 8 for now. But soon, he's moving on up or extending his time slot from 6 until 9. And I love this because now I get to say the new show called Mornings with the conveniently named Pat Kreitlow.
Well, how long have you waited to turn that around on me?
Long time.
Oh, for folks
Congratulations, Patrick. Congratulations.
For folks who are not early risers and do not know that when Todd makes his appearance Wednesday mornings at 7:30 on Up North News Radio, I tend to introduce it with coming up next, Todd Allbaugh of the conveniently named Todd Allbaugh Show, thinking that my show's never going to change its title. And now it is.
And now it is.
How convenient for me.
No, this is fantastic because you're going to be on more stations across the network, basically every place but
More
Madison
of
and
me
Green
to go
Bay.
around. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and then so 6 for now we're all in our same time slot. But on or about that's the phrase that's going around. On or about Wednesday the 23rd, will be changing, and we're having an extended morning show with you, and it's going to be you. Well, explain the premise of a couple of these changes, Pat.
Well, I don't know what I'm at liberty to really discuss here. And
I've been
what-
told we
what
can
is-
all talk about it, so
what
that's
is
what
still,
I'm doing.
What is still under wraps. So, I mean, I haven't even announced this on my show yet.
You
over
haven't?
You're over here breaking my news for me.
I'm sorry. I was told we could talk about it.
I'm busy trying to make all the preparations so that the new morning show has this nice, smooth launch that nobody knows about it until
Oh,
the
jeez.
proper time. And Todd says the proper time is now. You will talk about it now. So we're gonna talk about it.
Not even as God is as Zommers is my witness. I actually went to one of the meetings, and did I not ask and say, so we're at liberty to talk about this new schedule openly? I was told yes. Is that correct?
You actually clarified twice.
Thank you. So
Okay.
I have
So,
a
so
witness.
you are at liberty to do that, and you did.
All right, well,
And
I'll shut up
here
about
I
it.
am.
I'll let you give the
no,
details.
Here's the details. I'll be on from 6 until 9 instead of 6 until 8, 5 days a week. A couple of more markets here in Wisconsin being added to the roster, which is, again, I very much appreciate that. I appreciate everything about Civic Media doing this in partnership with my official boss, Courier Newsroom, which owns Up North News. So we still have this wonderful partnership. It's just that for years, we really wanted to talk about Up North News and put the focus on Up North News. It was a new product 5 years ago, 2.5 years ago when we started the radio show. So we really needed to build up its identity, and we feel like it's at a point now where when we talked about all these new shows and, the discussion turned to, show titles, people not named Pat Kreitlow thought it would be a good idea to put Pat Kreitlow in the job title. And trust me, this is about the only conversation I will ever have where I don't appear to be the most egotistical one in the room. But that was not my idea.
There were the votes came in, and it was one voter, and Pat said, "Let's call it Mornings of Pat Kreitlow." No.
But
because you're
again,
talking to the entire state, and
Yes.
that's fantastic.
Yes, and it is. It's a wonderful honor that we've been given here, Todd. Whatever our time slot, that we have this platform all across Wisconsin. It would be enough to have just a show in the Chippewa Valley or Madison or Richland Center. But the fact that we go out anywhere from 7 to 11 stations, depending on the shows and things like that, go out to, basically an entire statewide network is a wonderful thing. And I don't mean, again, it's not an ego thing. It means that the unique programming that we're doing, the unique character of your show, and you are a unique character, I'll tell you. But the things that you talk about, we're not getting talked about anywhere else. And you still get to do that. I still get to do that. We are lucky young men here, and I appreciate the opportunity, whatever time slot it happens to be. I thought maybe they'd ask about any of the other time slots, and then they said, wait, what's the business model of Pat's show? Oh yeah, I'm up this early to pee anyway because I'm old now. I may as well get paid for it, and so they decided keep him at 6 a.m. So here I am.
Well, I think it's fantastic, and I know we goof around a lot, good-naturedly, have a lot of fun. But let me just say this for a moment for everybody. One of the great joys and pleasures of coming to this network over 2.5 years ago now is working with somebody like Pat, who has a lot of experience in terms of journalism, being on WEAU, being in radio, and then also having been a state legislator in the state Senate, having lived in an area like northern Wisconsin, and putting all of that expertise as a broadcaster and a journalist into just a hell of a show that's also enjoyable and fun to listen to. I couldn't be more thrilled for you, and congratulations.
There are hostages who read the notes handed to them by their captors, read them with more authenticity than that Allbaugh. I tell you, I don't know who handed you that script to read, but thank you for doing. Thank you. I appreciate it. So much.
Congratulations. I think it's fantastic, and look forward to hearing it. A couple more minutes left. I just wanted to follow up a little bit on this story we were talking about with these 13 UW-Madison folks who had their visas terminated yesterday. We're being told now by the chancellor at Madison and others this had nothing to do with political affiliation. I'm going to be very fascinated to see what country these folks were from and the situation around this, because to our earlier point, have foreign student visas ever been terminated? The answer is yes. But generally, it's the exception, not the rule. And don't forget, as a secondary footnote, these folks on average are paying $15,000 a year more to come here than anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, these things only usually get invalidated if you've joined in with the guys who are bringing the horse into the dean's office, as part of some kind of a prank. Not for merely existing because a whatever you want to call Donald Trump, I'm just going to leave it there, has come into office and said, we don't like you people, you have to leave. It is as anti-American as values get what this man has. But enough people decided that the price of eggs was a little bit off to let him run amok with something that is just incredibly dark and just takes our image across the world and sinks it even deeper.
Yeah, it's definitely disturbing and sad. Two things you will not find in the morning with Pat Kreitlow. Up North News Radio until for more or less 2.5 weeks, and then be 6 to 8 with Mornings with Pat Kreitlow. Pat, you're amazing. Thank you, and we'll talk to you soon, my friend.
All right. Have a great day.
Yep, stay tuned for an agricultural update next, and then come on back with a little bit more news. It's the Allbaugh Show on Civic Media. Shoot, it's Tony. I'm sorry.
Tony,
I
think the
didn't
cops
know.
are showing up for Todd because of the parking tickets.
I know. Good.
So
I'll read
good.
that. I'll read that. I honest to God, I was told I could talk about everything.
You're fine.
I heard Jane talking about it this morning.
I did. I heard her talk about it this morning, so I'd already made a mental note to mention it tomorrow. If they ever gave out a WBA for the commercial break banter, this one would have been in the running.
Yes, 100%. All right. Well, I apologize if I.
No. You're fine. You're fine. I enjoyed it.
But let's be honest. Nobody is listening to the show anywhere. Wait, so nobody's gonna know.
Shut up.
Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway.
There you go. I will talk to you later.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Keeping your fields cleaner for longer. When your herbicides work smarter,
Well.
Wow. For those watching on the stream, honestly, I was not making that up. We were told we could talk about it.
Now let's listen into John Heinberg.
And
on
I
why
asked
the US
twice
corn is
to
seeing
clarify.
such a high demand.
On the corn side, good in demand.
So many
Export
things
sales continue
we
to
could talk
stay
about.
Strong. Export shipments continue to
But we won't.
strong.
It's okay.
Corn,
Yes,
US corn
Tony,
is still
what
the
a
best
secret
value
show.
in the world at this time frame, and that's where we've seen this market least.
As Ed McMahon once said, yes.
Front-end contracts, because until we get those South American supplies to compete against us, the world continues to turn to the United States.
And we never
for
even got to
corn at
Pat's
this time
bracket.
frame.
Good
So-
Lord, I'm sorry.
So
Pat.
that's some of the things that we're seeing right now. It's more probably just producers getting ready for spring, getting things moved now. So
So what I sent you the one shiny moment. What was the other one? Oh, the Harriet Tubman thing from Anderson Cooper. All right,
getting
cool.
to the elevators.
Heinberg says that as we wait for the South America crop to come in, the U.S. corn should continue to stay in the high demand for the near future. For the Midwest Farm Report, I'm Ben Jarbo, and we'll take a look at those midday markets right after
I'm not
this.
sure who's running. Is it Civic Media? Is that also you, Tony? I don't know who's running Civic Media.
Yeah, that was also him.
All right. I just didn't. I'm sorry. I didn't see Savannah's story. I just saw those two. They didn't come across my feed. I'm sorry. Todd, you may now be on the deportation. If I'm not there already, Jeff Perry, very likely. The good news is I've been to El Salvador before.
You haven't in.
The bad news is I've never been in prison.
You'll get a slightly bigger cage.
I'm Ben Jarbo with the Midwest
No, Todd,
Farm
you've
Report.
This is
upset.
my big chance to finally have a
On
boyfriend.
this Tuesday, Cash corn is up 3 1/4 at 467 3/4, and new crop corn is up 1 3/4 at 447
How does it feel to upset the higher ups so much that you not only get fired, but you get deported?
Right, I think I get deported. That's next on the list. Across El Salvador on the prison network.
Contracts are also up 4 cents at 554.5. Class 3 milk is showing gains as May contracts are up 30 cents at 17.08 a hundredweight, and June contracts are up 29 cents at 16.98 a hundredweight. For the Midwest Farm Report, I'm Ben Jarbo.
Let's go back with
Local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it.
let's
at
go back with the CBS basketball team, March Madness.
With calm winds and high temperatures reaching the low 40s.
I think we will get yelled at if we do that.
Really? Well, it wouldn't be the first time.
Tomorrow morning. Otherwise, spotty
No,
showers,
that's fine.
mostly
All right.
cloudy skies,
We've played it
and high
before.
temperatures
Yeah.
warmer in the
They're
upper
cracking
40s.
down now.
I'm
Yeah, I
meteorologist
think
Brittany
I have been
Monroe.
informed we
Now
should not use that.
35.
Really? More things that Todd is not supposed to say or do. That could be a new, that right there. We've got a new segment. Stay tuned, coming soon. Things that Todd has been told he cannot say or do anymore. It's like the 7 words you can't, George Carlin's 7 words you can't say on radio.
The Todd Allbaugh Show.
There is a brand new text to win contest. It involves Packer tickets and really, we can't say that. We are legally not allowed to say the following when promoting this contest. Lambeau Field, Green Bay Packers, New Orleans Saints or Saints.
Well, now you just said all of them.
Just disregard everything I said.
The Todd Allbaugh Show.
That is the greatest promo that Zombers ever did for this show,
It
by
was
the way.
stupid, then we had to take
And
it
it
down.
only ran
Yeah.
once.
Worth it. All right, we have about 20 seconds.
doing it. Welcome back. Lots of fun, by the way. 34 minutes past the hour of 12 noon on Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. Allbaugh along with Zommers on the board. Let me tell you something. If you're not watching or listening to the show on the stream, you're missing out. So dial us up on Facebook and Twitter and X and YouTube on the Civic Media YouTube. We still go to the Todd Allbaugh Show page on Facebook, right?
Yes.
And then also on the Civic Media Facebook page, because I guess it's come to be known as the secret show. Now, there's no big secret about it, you understand. We just leave the cameras on and the mics open, and you get to see what we do during the commercial breaks. And I do it because if I were you, I would find it entertaining. Not because I think me personally is entertaining, but as a person that likes media, I like to know a little bit behind the curtain what goes on.
Oh, me too. Behind the scenes of film and all that
so
stuff is the coolest.
That's why we choose to just be transparent about everything. And you'll find out that I'm very similar off the air that I am on the. It's pretty much the same person. And so during the break, we were talking back and forth, and literally things, not because it was swearing, but things that we said on the stream that I'm not allowed to say on the air. I wanted to come back. We call it bumper music in the business, as they say. I wanted to come back with bumper music. Can I hum it?
Sure. Probably.
Da, 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 da. I'll just put that out there. Da, 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 da. And usually there's basketballs, you know. And Zomer says, I don't think we can do that anymore. And so we had a big discussion, which I found a lot of fun. And so anyway, and Tony Zimmerman, our great, he makes all of our reels. He's our social media guy. I don't know what anybody's title is, by the way, but I'll just call him the great Tony Zimmerman, a new father. That's what he is. And he says that was fantastic. It was almost entirely legal things, he said. So if you want to find out legal things that we cannot say on the broadcast show, tune in on the stream show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, X, all those things. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, Zimmerman says, I think the cops are showing up for Todd because of the parking tickets.
Yeah, that was earlier when Pat was talking about the cops showing up.
I haven't had one in a while. Very proud of that. So I'm park it ticket free right now. And the reason I know that is because I was able to renew my license plate.
You didn't have to go in and pay any fines.
Right. Sometimes when I go to renew the license plate, it says you have to first pay this ticket or whatever. But nope, I'm all up to date. I'm 100% street legal, as they say. All right. Well, so the reason I wanted to come in with that music and we couldn't is that the big national championship men's basketball game was last night on CBS. And I dialed it up, and it looked like for a while that Houston was just going to run away with it. They were ahead by 12 points, I think, at one point. But then the Florida Gators chomped their way back and ended up winning it by a point, I believe, a point or two. It was a fantastic game. It was just a lot of fun. And many thanks to Pat Kreitlow for being on earlier. And apparently now we had a Civic Media in-house pool. It wasn't so much a pool because you didn't have to pay into it. But there was like a $50 gift card or whatever on the line. I did not win. I placed like 23rd or something. Sad, bad, not glad, as Ken Lewis is fond of saying. But I believe Petra in our company, who I do not know where she works, I'm sure she's a lovely person, got first. She won this, and apparently Kreitlow won in the Courier News Service room pool or whatever. So congratulations to Pat Kreitlow. But of course, my favorite part of the national championship game every year is at the end, they do a great video montage with the great Luther Vandross singing One Shining Moment. So we won't play the whole thing, but here last night, and of course it was surreal and a little odd because Greg Gumbel, the longtime wonderful host at CBS who passed away earlier this year, of course, obviously not there. And so it was Wisconsin's own Ernie Johnson, who normally works on TNT, but crosses over to CBS for the tournament every year. Ernie Johnson introduced it. Here's a little bit of the first part of One Shining Moment from last night.
It is a basketball party like no other. There's nothing like it for me. Rivals only Christmas.
Never gets old. This place is rocking. This is why we do this every March.
The madness is upon us.
It's going down right now.
The ball is and there you are. You're running for your life. You're a shooting star. In all the years, no one knows just how hard you worked.
This is where dreams are made. Deflection.
In one shining moment, it's all on the line.
We got you, buddy.
In one shining moment, they're frozen in time.
McNeese, first ever.
One shining moment, a portion of that, the first part last night. It gives you goosebumps every year to watch it. And I appreciate that kind of stuff so well. I've enjoyed working on projects like that over the years in radio and TV. And when you could get it just right and time up the announcer or the video clip to the music and make it just work in sync, it's really cool. And it's a lot of fun. And that takes a lot of work by a group of people to put that together every year. So many thanks and congrats to all the editors and producers and camera and sound people behind the stage, at CBS, who put together one shining moment. Of course, it was the Florida Gators over the Houston Cougars. And speaking of longtime broadcast, Jim Nantz, who did the game who did basketball on CBS for years and years and years, he still does golf, but now he is retired from broadcasting on the basketball side. He is a graduate of UW Houston, Todd, of University of Houston. And he said last night that he did like 90 some playoff NCAA games or about 90 some Final Four games, 100 some playoff games. Anyway, he said sitting in the stands as a fan is much more agonizing and difficult than being a broadcaster calling the game. And I found that fascinating. And I relate, I've talked about this a little bit before. I've known Jim Nantz. I wouldn't make a hangnail on Jim Nantz's little toe. But from my broadcasting experience calling games at UW Platteville, I get it. Because when you're a broadcaster, you have to try to stay focused. It's kind of like election night, right? You have to bring a professionalism and a focus and try to put your personal biases and emotions aside to put forth a good product on the air. But when you're a fan, and you're not on the air, you can just kind of let it loose and get absorbed in it. So anyway, it was a great broadcast. Bill Rafferty, the analyst, great. He is a national treasure. Ian Eagle also a great job as well last night. Everybody who Charles Barkley. I mean, who's better than Charles Barkley on the desk? the analysis, absolutely fantastic. And the women's side, it was UConn, I believe, over the South Carolina Gamecocks, and UConn, the winningest women's program now in women's NCAA basketball history. So anyway, once again, we're done with college basketball now. Pretty much all major college sports. Now we turn to the Brewers. On the professional side, the Brewers get back underway tonight. They are out at Colorado, taking on the Colorado Rockies. The Brewers, you can hear it over several stations across Civic Media starting at 7:05 tonight on WRCE in Richland Center, ISS in Oshkosh, RJN Racing Kenosha, CQM in Park Falls, and now on BZH, the Buzz of the North in beautiful Hayward, Wisconsin. Brewers broadcast tonight, 7:05. They are in Colorado for a 3-game series. So best of luck to them on that. It is 43 minutes now past the hour of 12 noon on this Tuesday. As we said earlier, lots of news to get to today. I want to start with something that's going a little under the radar, but I think it's really important, and it shows in part where we're at right now in this country with this administration. On Anderson Cooper, or Cooper AC 360, I guess the program is called in CNN. Anderson Cooper talked about this scrubbing of history in our national park system. And this is just one sliver of this kind of stuff that's been happening. I want to pick this up. I want you to hear it, Anderson Cooper's words, because he does a great job of synopsizing. Synopsizing, is that a word?
Summarizing, I guess.
He does a great job talking about it. Here's Anderson Cooper on the scrubbing of history at our national parks.
We've been reporting for months now on the Trump administration's efforts to rewrite American history, apparently as part of their mandate to eliminate all references and efforts related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, which the president, as you know, signed an executive order against on his first day in office. His administration has purged from a number of Department of Defense websites and other government sites specific references to the struggles and accomplishments of Black Americans, gay and lesbian and transgender Americans, and trailblazing women who fought for equality, among many other groups. In late March, President Trump took aim at our national parks and museums, specifically the Smithsonian, and signed another executive order, this one titled Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History. It reads in part, and I quote, "The Smithsonian Institution has in recent years come under the influence of a divisive, race-centered ideology." And the effort to whitewash American history now continues. The National Park Service, which has already removed the word transgender from its website discussing the history of the Stonewall Rebellion, they've even removed the letter T from LGBT. They now just say it's LGB. Anyway, we found out yesterday they had rewritten the history of the Underground Railroad and Harriet Tubman.
Let's stop right there for a second. We'll go back just a couple of seconds. I want to stop and just explain that part of it for those that might not be familiar. What Anderson Cooper is talking there about Stonewall and Harvey Milk and what happened years and years ago in terms of making progress towards equality for LGBTQ plus community in this country. And taking, Stonewall, that's a major, anybody knows anything about LGBTQ plus history in America knows that's very significant because it was an uprising and it was saying, look, people aren't going to hide in the closet. They're going to be free to be who they really are. And remember, it was a Republican governor in Wisconsin, Lee Sherman Dreyfus, a Republican governor who signed the legislation that was passed by a democratically controlled legislature in Wisconsin, that was the first state in America that said you cannot be fired from a job or you can't be discriminated against in being hired for a job because of if you're LGBTQ plus. It was a historic moment of bipartisanship, and Wisconsin led the way in that. And now the Trump administration wants to erase that history. So that's that part of it. Let's continue on. Here's Anderson Cooper last night. Now he moves on to the Harriet Tubman part of it. Here we go.
This is what the webpage from the National Park Service on the Underground Railroad originally looked like, leading with a photo and quote by Harriet Tubman and an opening line that read, and I quote, "The Underground Railroad, the resistance to enslavement through escape and flight through the end of the Civil War, refers to the efforts of enslaved African Americans to gain their freedom by escaping bondage." So that's what it was before they changed it. It then became this. Gone were the photo and quote from Harriet Tubman. In their place, images of U.S. Postal Service commemorative stamps that highlight, quote, black-white cooperation. Also gone any reference to enslavement or slavery or enslaved people in the opening line. The story was first reported by the Washington Post yesterday, and other outlets took notice, including CNN. One historian we spoke to called the omissions offensive and absurd. The Washington Post also found that edits on dozens of other National Park Service web pages since Trump's inauguration had, quote, softened descriptions of some of the most shameful moments of the nation's past. That included the website for the Little Rock Central High School National Historic Site in Arkansas. Now, in 1957, 9 incredibly brave black students known as the Little Rock Nine were to be the first to integrate this all-white school, facing an angry white mob and Arkansas National Guardsmen actually blocking their entrance. Once they finally did get inside, they were beaten, spat at, spat on, endured racist verbal attacks. And yet, according to the Washington Post, 6 different web pages that said they opened doors for, quote, equality and education around the world were edited to remove the word equality. One of the surviving Little Rock Nine members is Elizabeth Eckford. That's her in the middle of a photo being screamed at by white students. When asked about the
Anderson Cooper last night, we're just running up against the clock here a little bit, but that was at Anderson Cooper last night. I want to come back and talk about this erasure of history in American institutions. By the way, as of this morning, the National Park Service restored those photos and that accurate history of Harriet Tubman. Wow, isn't that odd when the light gets shined? Things do change. Come back, take your calls, 855-752-4842. It's the Allbaugh Show on Civic Media.
Real news and great conversation, 92.7 WMDX.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to pay their back taxes. Qualifying and enrolling in this program will stop all
sounds like a scam.
collections, settle your delinquent tax problem, and even reduce what you owe by thousands of dollars. Call the hotline at People's Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-810-3588. If you have unfiled tax returns or cannot
This
afford
sounds
to
like
pay
the phone
your
calls I
personal
get
or
about my
business
my
back
extended
taxes,
warranty.
you
Right.
can now get the help you
What they-
need. One simple phone call can
What they do
resolve
basically,
your
in
tax
my
problem
understanding,
and save you thousands
as a
of
person who's
dollars.
gone through
To see
financial
if you
problems,
qualify and to get
is
this
is
important
that you
free
call them
information,
and you
call
basically tell them every place that you owe
800-810-3588,
something, and then they say, well,
800-810-3588,
we'll intercede and we'll try to talk them down in price and say, hey, we'll pay you 50 cents to the dollar for this, and we'll do it right now. So they use their money to pay your debt and then charge you a ridiculous interest rate moving forward.
Exactly, yeah. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what it is.
Get huge savings on adjustable bases. And the more you buy, the more you save on accessory bundles. It's our biggest sale of the year.
I'm not the only one who thinks it sounds like a scam.
Furlough.
Blind Shot Social Club, a perfect blend of cool, casual dining, indoor golf with space for events, craft cocktails, and non-alcoholic drinks too. A hidden gem
It's a
on
beautiful
Madison's
day here in
east
Madison.
side.
Looking out the
Blind
window.
Shot Social Club, open to everyone. BlindShotSocialClub.com.
Sunny skies.
Out here in the middle of these acres, it can feel like
If only it were warmer temperatures. All right, here we go. Pursuing truth wherever it may lead and having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. It is now 9 before the hour of 1 o'clock. Coming up at the top of the hour, ABC and CBS News. We'll be back in hour 2. Little fun and games for you. What's worse for today's hours? Turning on the heat or turning on the air? Talk about that coming up in hour number 2, as April is kind of that time of year where it could be 75, 80, or it could be 25. So it's a swing month as it is. Talking a little bit about what's going on in the news at this hour. And before the break there, played you some of Anderson Cooper from last night at AC 360. The fact that the National Park Service, under the direction of Donald J. Trump, trying to scrub American history. Dana Carvey, the great comedian, in his character, the church lady, she might say, well, how convenient. The Trump administration is simple, because what they replace it with, I think later on in the clip, we didn't hear all of it there because my timing was bad, but Cooper puts on there that they've replaced it with some of these articles with words where the truth is there, i.e., hey, America has some dark history. Black people were enslaved. Black people have had fewer rights. That's just a fact in this country. Joe Biden calls it our original sin. Others have too. But now the Trump administration is going into these federal agencies and saying, yeah, we don't like that. We don't like having that truth out there. It's not a good narrative for us. So they're scrubbing that and putting in phrases and sentences like the Underground Railroad showed cooperation between white and black people. Which on just, in a larger context, that's not untrue. The Underground Railroad was a mixture of people and Americans. There were white Americans, certainly, that helped in the Underground Railroad and supported that in the North. But you can't just say that. There's a lot more to it.
Just saying that is DEI. It's wanting white people to be included.
Right.
In something that's about black people.
and not to put Harriet Tubman as one of the great national heroes in this country at the forefront is an injustice and simply is not true. She was. And you'll recall that it was all lined up that Harriet Tubman was going to replace Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill. And we forget this, of course, because and it was actually Pat Kreitlow who reminded me of this before we went on the air at the top of the show, that it was Trump's first term. Because, something called COVID happened, so we kind of forget a lot of the other things that happened during the first Trump administration. But that was one of the first things that Trump did in the first go-around was say, yeah, we're not putting Harriet Tubman on any sort of money here. So he undid that and left Andrew Jackson on, which has a mixed record at best on slavery and civil rights. Not even a mixed record, to be fair. So now Trump going in and and remember, this is, we laid this out in the fall. And now here we are in real time seeing it happen. I remember having shows last summer and fall where we said, look, I understand that folks are saying, well, he wasn't so bad in the first term. He's just saying a lot of this stuff. It's not going to happen. And people like me, not because I'm a wise guy or smarter than anybody else, but just because I was a former Republican, left in 2011, long before Trump, and I know how these people think and work. And there were folks like me and several others that said, yeah, wait, you had guys like Reince Priebus, former Wisconsin Republican Party chair. You had people like John Kelly, decorated military general. You had people like General Milley, decorated American hero, around Donald Trump in Trump 1.0. So when he got wacky ideas like scrubbing American history or shooting peaceful protesters in the knees via the military, they said, hang on, Don, you can't do it. And he said, fine. And we said last fall, but if there is a Trump 2.0, he ain't going to have those people around him. He learned his lesson. And of course, that's exactly what happened. So now there is no leash on the bulldog, no leash on the pit bull. And he's free to roam figuratively up and down American neighborhoods, creating chaos. And that's why we're seeing things that we're seeing now, everything from the ruining of the American economy. We might play it in hour two. In fact, we will. Zommer's help an old guy remember to play this in hour two. There's a cut of the new Prime Minister of Canada talking about taking it to Americans. Did we ever think that we would see this in our lifetime? Hugo Chavez, sure we expect that. Mikhail Gorbachev, sure we expect that. President Xi, sure we expect that in China. Saying bad things about Americans. But did you ever think in your lifetime we'd have a chief executive in Donald Trump, a guy like Trump, who creates our number one enemy as Canadians? I mean, it's laughable if it wasn't true.
Arguably our number one ally last year.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we'll come back. We'll talk a little bit about that. Play a little what's worse for you, and check on the markets. Not great. Come on back. It's hour number 2. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show. It's Summers, and you're listening to the Civic Media Radio Network.
Real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX. Teach Waba.
On the next Nightlight, it's Mob Talk with Bob Dennis, who is in studio. And then Madison-based comic and writer Mike Mercury joins the show for some laughs. Let's light it up.
Nightlight with Peach Waba.
Oh, it's fantastic. We have a winner chicken dinner. We have a mattress.
When a parent sees
winner.
their child smile,
Although we're told not to spend too much time on it.
Hoped that his son Rajiv
Join us for the
would
next
have an
half hour
easier
of our
life than he
program.
had. You see, Rajiv,
No,
just
I'm
like his
kidding.
father,
I'm kidding.
was
Just
born with a
relax.
cleft.
Just relax.
But thanks to Smile Train, both father and son received free life.
Oh, this is very exciting. This is very exciting.
Their smiles into symbols of hope. To learn more and
Does-
support the
does the
global
individual know who
community,
won?
visit smiletrain.org.
The individual themselves?
Yeah.
I
I
would
guess
think
they
so
must.
if we're
I think
allowed to
it's-
say their name.
Yeah, well, it says right here.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin.
Do you
Find
think
your
this is the
favorites
same
at civicmedia.us.
person that won our Just a Bit Outside ticket?
This is 92.7
That was
WMDX
Troy.
Oh,
Columbus.
was it? It was in Sun
Madison's
Prairie,
home
though.
for
Oh, the
real
new,
news
the
and great
newest one?
conversation.
No, that was Chris.
Oh, Chris.
The
Sorry.
Civic
right.
Media Station.
Chris, I'm sorry you're not a winner.
This is a special report from
Not this time.
Not this time.
Michelle Franzen. The market's rebounding a bit after days of losses due to President Trump's tariffs. The White House says the president is moving forward with reciprocal tariffs set to kick in Wednesday on nearly 24 countries. At today's briefing, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the Trump administration is also willing to hold trade talks with some countries.
President Trump is willing to pick up the
I just
phone and
texted you
talk.
something.
And the president met with his trade team this morning, and he directed them to have tailor-made trade deals with each and every country that calls up this administration to strike a deal.
Economists say the markets and businesses and Americans are facing short-term and long-term consequences. KPMG chief economist Diane Swank.
All of this moving around
Chief
and
economist
mixed
Diane
messaging that we're
Swamp.
hearing is
I love
adding
that
to
name.
uncertainty, which economists measure because it's a natural human behavior. In
God, I
the face
hope
of
not.
uncertainty, we tend to
Tony,
freeze
that
up.
would not
It
surprise me.
paralyzes us.
Not knowing.
ABC News.
That'll be who is the guy? Tony might remember. You're too young, Tony. There was a guy for years. I think he's dead now, but they still replay his show, an overnight show. And it was like it was like a paranormal guy. And he'd have people call, and this was like serious. And they'd have like 10-minute calls. Well, I was, I lived for a little while in Little Rock, and boy, you go down there about 3 in the morning, and nobody could explain it. It was a green light, and oftentimes, for usually a week or so afterwards, I have irrational headaches. And I started talking to my coworkers, irrational headaches, and I think it was the laser beams. And the host would be like, no, I'm sure it was.
Federal law enforcement
And then later on, you go back and
They
find
do
out,
say
no,
they
there
don't
are
believe these
explanations
13
for all of
people
this.
are having their statuses canceled because
Some of
of
it's still not
political
totally figured
activity
out
on
yet.
campus. Many of the people the administration is trying to deport were involved in protests against the war in Gaza. The most prominent example is Mahmoud Khalil.
My grandma
grad
was
student at
convinced
Columbia.
that there was
The
a
federal
drone that
government
would
is
fly
trying to
outside her
deport
house
him.
and
He
spy
has
on
a green
her.
card, is married to an American
And
citizen,
it
is
would just
expecting
like
his
sit
first
there
child,
and go
and is
up and
not
down
accused of any
and like
crime.
move around a little bit, but stay in
Immigration
pretty
lawyers
much
in
the
Trump
same spot.
administration
I'm
are
like,
now
Grandma,
playing it out in court.
no one's
According
watching
to
in
the
your house
Washington
with a drone.
Post, precedent is that the U.S. Constitution
We live in a
protects
neighborhood with
citizens and
multiple police
non-citizens
officers.
from
Here,
civil or
it's still
criminal
on the air,
penalties
but not the
for
original guy.
speech,
Coast
but
to
it's not
Coast
clear
AM.
whether that protects
It's
them
called
from immigration
Coast
questioning.
Coast to Coast
2 weeks
AM
ago,
with your
Secretary of
host and
State
creator
Marco Rubio
Art
said
Bell
they've revoked at
from
least
its inception in
300 people's visas
1988
across
until
the country.
2003 and is currently hosted by George Norrie.
We don't want it in our country.
According to NPR, they're justifying these deportations with a rarely used
That's
statute that
Watch,
says the
strange
State
mystery
Department can
creature
revoke
spotted in
visas
Colorado.
Yeah.
if a person is a
Tariff.
threat to US
This is a
foreign
great
policy.
headline.
But
Tariff
free speech
turmoil
advocates
ensnares
are
Loch
deeply
Ness
worried.
monster.
UW Madison leaders say they're
That's an
working with
amazing
the
headline. That's from
13
yesterday.
to help them navigate
great.
What comes next.
That's
They're also
great.
directing
The
international
legendary
students
Loch Ness
all the
monster
resources
has been
available to
surprisingly
them.
ensnared in the turmoil surrounding President
Olsen.
Trump's
You're
newly
listening
imposed
to
trade tariffs.
92.7
The famed cryptid
WMDX
reportedly
News.
finds itself involved in the geopolitical gamesmanship, thanks to Steve Feltham, who has diligently watched for Scotland's famed cryptid since he moved to the location in 1991.
Bucks are back in 5th place after
It-
winning
it
4
goes
in a
on.
row.
That's
Bobby
fantastic.
Portis returns tonight after serving a 25-game suspension for using a banned painkiller. Doc Rivers says at times they had to get creative to cover while Portis was out.
Bobby Portis' return tonight, sponsored by Purdue Pharma.
We had no choice. Brooke gets in foul trouble. You feel like a mad scientist at times, but at times you want to just go back to being normal. That would be nice.
Baseball, Brewers opening a 3-game series in Denver.
Jeff Perry says, Todd, I'm very hurt that you're making fun of my traumatic experience with the lasers in Little Rock.
The lefty from Baltimore is 24 years old, and outfielder Daz Cameron has arrived after a trade with Baltimore.
The Secret Show is very fun today.
A celebration of life for Bob Uecker will be held at AmFam Field.
And yes, Dave in New Berlin texted in. He knew George Murray does it now.
With Sports on Mike Clemens.
That was good for you,
You
Dave.
can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
Super sunny today and comfortable, with calm winds and high temperatures reaching the low 40s. We'll see some clouds rolling in late tonight, and a wintry mix may be falling early tomorrow morning. Otherwise, spotty showers, mostly cloudy skies, and high temperatures warmer in the upper 40s. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Right now, it's 35.
The Maggie Dawn Show.
A new texter on our text line said this: I think any other president would take these protests very seriously, but our current one couldn't care less. Anybody remember, Nero fiddling while Rome burned? You get a little of that vibe here. The man's off golfing over the weekend as the world
Tony, I also hope the Hodag is safe from tariffs.
and nosediving.
I think since it's in America, we might be good.
Weekdays from 2 till 4 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app. The John and Gordy Show.
Chicken cordon bleu?
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it? Do you have Julian standing by?
I do have Julian.
Well, let's hear him.
It is said cordon bleu.
Well, cordon bleu, please. It's like the first time you've gone to the restaurant. Could I have some cordon bleu? Sorry, sir. We don't serve cocaine here.
You laughing at the promo? Or
Yeah, it was funny.
It's a good one.
WMDX and the Civic Media app.
Got a little less. Do you think they'll tax the beast on Bray Road? That's a deep cut Wisconsin cryptid. I hope not.
Our next show, we'll be giving away tickets
All right,
to
15
Peter
seconds.
Frampton.
And we
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with our producer and engineer, Mr. Aaron Zommers, on the board. It is 6 past the hour of 1 o'clock. Welcome in hour number 2 of the big program here. It is Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. It is a great day to be a Wisconsinite. Glad to have you along here. Downtown Madison, world headquarters of Civic Media in beautiful Madison, the state capital. Great day here. Sunny skies, a little chilly, but maybe some slushy accumulation, as they're saying, less than an inch-ish in kind of southern Wisconsin over towards Milwaukee area into tonight and tomorrow morning, and then slowly warming up the rest of the week, saying maybe 70 degrees in some parts of Wisconsin by Sunday and Monday. Hour number 2 here, going to do what's worse in just a minute. Also going to talk more about this news this afternoon. The U.S. Supreme Court halts a court order requiring rehiring of probationary workers. Got all that? Essentially, the Supreme Court said to Trump, yeah, you can go ahead and fire whoever you want. So there's that. And also, we have a lot more. A lot more your phone calls as well. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Over the break on the show, again, you can stream this in Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Just go Todd Allbaugh Show on any. Well, I guess now on YouTube, you have to say Civic Media. Anyway, you can find us on all those platforms and check us out. Just because we talk about things, we keep the cameras on, we keep the mics open, unless one of us has to use the can or something like. We don't take the cameras in the bathroom. You see, but
I will say, having worked tech in theater, it does happen. The joke you always hear about people who have their mics and they leave them on and go to the bathroom. Luckily, not during a show, but in practice, it's always funny, and it's like, oh God. We're doing Shrek the Musical, and Shrek left his mic on again.
Well, because a lot of times now in theater, particularly bigger companies, you have a cordless for lack of a better term, a lavalier mic. It doesn't go on your chest so much. Sometimes it goes like in the side of your hair or a wig that you have, and it's almost you can't really see it if you're in the audience, but it picks up the audio. You can't take that off. All you can do is try to remember to turn off the battery pack. And if you don't, but no, we do not take our mics into the bathroom during the breaks here. But you get to hear what Zommers and I and other people talk about. It's always a lot of fun for the most part. Sometimes not so interesting. But Tony Zimmerman, because we were talking about, what was he saying that I was going to get relegated? Because we're changing, if you haven't heard, we're changing time slots. This is very, very exciting. We're going here in about 2.5 weeks, around April 23rd-ish. We'll be going to 2 to 4 in the afternoon. And so I was, things we might talk about at that hour. There's a great program called Coast to Coast. It's an overnight show. It doesn't air here, but other places.
So that's more 2 to 4 a.m.
Right. And so Zimmerman says, I think I just heard your time is no longer 2 to 4 p.m., but the new time has been switched to 2 to 4 a.m., which would not surprise me. But so this got me thinking, and we dialed this, and it's a Coast to Coast AM, and it was created years ago, back in 1988, by Art Bell. And it's still, I think he died in 2003 or retired, and now there's this guy, George Norrie, that does it. And you can still find it on some stations in the middle of the night. But I did not know until Zommers did, they actually have a website. And this is not presented as satire. It is not presented as, this is presented as real. And here's just a few of the headlines from the Coast to Coast AM website. Quote, conspiracies and the paranormal defeating the devil. So, I mean, that's, and Zommers, this is great. Zommers found this one. A tariff turmoil and snarls Loch Ness monster.
To which Tony says, they got Nessie.
Right. And so you have people calling in. They're probably strung out on something at 3 o'clock in the morning, but they call in and they say things like, yeah, this is Bill from Little Rock, not Clinton. And, I was going out for my beer run or snacks at the local store. And over the mountains, there is this, nobody can explain it. It's like this green light. And for about a week after, me and my neighbors all had headaches. And then the host says, no, I get you. I mean, this we've seen this all over the country. And this is a radio show. And it's enormously popular, and it does very, very well. And so maybe this is what we should go to at 2 to 4 in the afternoon, Zommers. What do you think?
Tony thinks so. He says, I think you may have stumbled upon a recurring segment, the real news.
Yes, I think this might see what you're witnessing here in real time is storyboarding for the new time slot in the new Todd Allbaugh show coming up sometime later this month, around the 23rd of April, between 2 and 4. These are things that we may start talking about.
The creation of greatness. You're here on the ground floor.
Creation is true. Greatness?
The pursuit of greatness.
The pursuit, yes. Pursuing greatness. 12 minutes past the hour, 1 o'clock. Time now for What's Worse. Let's go.
This or that, this or that. Then, of course, the choice is yours. You can get with this or you can get with that. You can get with this.
Time now, once again, for What's Worse. No prize money involved. Simply your chance to have your voice heard across the state of Wisconsin. All 11 news talk radio stations. No better chance to get your voice heard than buying airtime right here on Civic Media. Go to civicmedia.us. Check out our sales folks and find out how you can be here on Civic Media. Now, I shouldn't have opened it up, Zommers. I messed up. I'm sorry. We opened it up. I'm gonna use this anyway, because I was thinking we had breaking news over the break. Breaking news over the break. We now can tell you that we have a grand prize winner in our Text to Win Break into Spring contest over the last 2 weeks. And if you haven't heard, our wonderful, talented, and lovely colleague and host of the Matt Nair on Air program, Jane Matt Nair, she and her co-host Greg Bach, they beat us in the number of texts received. And congratulations to them for getting it done and ginning this big thing up. And So now we have a winner in that. And that, by the way, that's why we're going to 2 to 4, because we lost the contest. And so now we give you the winner, because we told you all along you had hourly winners of $100, and Corretto shelled that out of his pocket. We appreciate that. And then we had the Milwaukee Brewers, who said, hey, we got some extra tickets laying around. Why don't you give those away? So many thanks to them for that. And then the great folks up at Chula Vista Resort up in Wisconsin Dells, they gave us some overnight stays. But there was only one grand prize, and that was from the great Verlo Mattress Company. And if only I could have been eligible, because who can't use a brand new mattress and sheets and pillows and the whole 9 yards? So now we can tell you, congratulations to Steve in Sun Prairie for being, there you go, for being Civic Media's grand prize winner for the statewide, oh, it is statewide, by the way, for the statewide Break Into Spring Text to Win contest. Thank you to all the listeners who texted in and participated in our latest statewide contest. Be sure to download the Civic Media app and stay tuned for your next chance to win in all of Civic Media's contests. There's another one coming up
pretty soon.
Not too long, not too far away, just right around the corner. So download the Civic Media app today. So congratulations to Steve in Sun Prairie. Not sure if he was listening to our show or one of the other fine programs, but probably listening on WMDX here in Madison or on the Civic Media app. Congrats to Steve in Sun Prairie, our grand prize winner for that great Verlo mattress and everything that went with it. A lot of fun. So, and thanks to all the people in our network behind the scenes who put all that together. It's a lot of work, and we appreciate all of that and all of them as well. All right, let's do we opened it up already, so here we go. And timely indeed, because the weather, it be changing. Cold today, maybe snow and slush tonight, 70 degrees by Monday. So, what's worse, turning on the heat or turning on the air? Turning on the heat or turning on the air? 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Give us a call or text us on the Civic Media app. Download it today on your Apple or Android device. Less than a minute to download. It is free. It's what Gail King at CBS calls a deal. By the way, Gail King she's going into space on Monday, Zombers. Have you heard about this?
I have.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that soon.
It's Monday, and they're extending the show like by an hour to watch her go up into space.
Wow.
So I'm crossing my fingers it all goes well. Do you think anybody would be willing? I bet there'd be a lot of people that would be willing to send me into space. As long as I don't come back.
Are you going on the Mars trip with
yes.
With Elon?
Yes, that's right. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Whistler on WRCE in the old hometown of Richland Center. Whistler, turning on the heat or turning on the air? What's worse?
I think turning on the air, because when it gets really cool inside, I have to go outside to warm back up.
There, that's a good
Does
point.
that make sense?
Yes, because it's hot in the house, but it's not because of sun comes in the window, it heats up the house, but it's still kind of cool outside. So then you got to go outside to get warm.
Yeah, even when I'm wearing shorts, like in the summer,
right?
I sit here and get cold, and it's like, oh Jesus, I got to go outside and warm up. You don't want to throw a blanket on in the summertime.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because oftentimes, and Zommers and I say this, we've done the same thing. Because the HVAC, I'm not making the HVAC, because we have south-facing windows, which are lovely, but the HVAC is, shall we say, not necessarily modern. And so half the time we're sweating, and half the time we're freezing. And there have been times we've walked out in the afternoon and we're like, oh my God, it feels so much better out here that the station is actually cold.
Yeah, but then after you've been outside for a little while and you've warmed back up and you come in because you need to get a drink of water or something.
Right.
And it doesn't feel too bad.
Yeah.
Until after you've been in for a while.
I got you, Whistler. I got you. Appreciate it. Thanks so much. Have a good day out there in beautiful Driftless area. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. What's worse, turning on the heat or turning on the air condition? It's that time of year. Come on back. It's Zommers. It's Todd. It's the Civic Media Radio Network.
Real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX.
I'm Dan Schaefer. Let's recombine.
LA Tom
in
asks,
the April 1st
Todd, are
spring
we
election,
considered
Susan Crawford
gender
won the
traitors?
incredibly expensive.
I think
race
it's supposed to be
for
traitors.
Wisconsin
Oh,
Supreme
got it.
Court.
This
And she
is what they
didn't just
call
win, but
gay
won
people in the
decisively,
Handmaid's Tale. Well, yeah,
55%
right.
of the vote.
I
A
don't know.
10-point
I
margin
didn't
ahead
want
of
to play the guy,
Republican
but there's some
Jim.
Christian
It is
nationalist
a
pastor who was on some
remarkable victory. And in
podcast
so many
yesterday,
ways, this race
and he was
became a
talking about the
referendum
fact
on
that
Elon Musk
he and his
from his
son
prominent position
get
in the
patted
Trump
down
administration
by the
to the
TSA
tens of
agents
millions
when
of
they go
dollars
through
he
the
put
line
towards backing
because
Brad
they
Schimmel
don't
in
want
this
the
race.
quote-unquote
And Wisconsin
gay
voters spoke
beams of
decisively,
the
rejecting
radar.
Musk at this critical
Because he
moment.
told his
All
son,
72
if you this is real.
candidates
I'm not
shifted to
making
the
this
left
up.
from last
This
fall's
pastor
election.
said
That
if you
includes
go
Brown
through the
County, home
TSA
to Green
radar
Bay,
thing and
where
put your
Musk
hands
held
up
a
and it
rally just
scans
days
you,
before
it
the
will make you
election,
gay.
handing out
So he
million-dollar checks.
prefer
The
to be
sweeping
patted
results we're seeing
down
are going to send a
in his
powerful
private
message that
area
will resonate
by a dude,
nationally.
which is
Wisconsin
apparently,
voters
according to
spoke
him,
loud and clear,
less gay.
saying, we cannot be bought.
I'm not making it. You Google it up. It's real.
Oh, I believe it. I'm just very disappointed in
I
humanity.
think he just enjoys a good pat down. And by the way, who doesn't?
You might be right. Also, I have the cut of the Canadian Prime Minister.
Oh,
the
thank
one
you.
from the
Thank you.
27th, or like a few days ago.
Oh, let's see if I'm not sure if I sent that to myself or not.
Well,
Can you play it? I have time to play a bit of it.
The old relationship we had with the United States, based on deepening integration of our economies and tight security and military cooperations.
No, that's not.
So-
That's fine. That's something we could play. I probably didn't send it to either one of us, so that's on me.
Reach out today.
This one's like a minute and a half.
By advancing a healthier Wisconsin endowment with support by the Medical College of Wisconsin, the War
Right,
Memorial
20
Center.
seconds.
Thank you.
Reach out, WIS.org.
Pursuing truth wherever it may lead and having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. Glad to have you along with us on a Tuesday. We're right in the middle of What's Worse for today. The question, turning on the heat or turning on the air condition? What's worse? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Tony watching on the, pardon me, the YouTube channel says, turning on the heat because I have a fireplace in the room with the thermostat, so it makes all the bedrooms cold. Well, there you go. That's also inconvenient, as they say. I mean, Wisconsinites struggle with this. I think, in my opinion, I think we struggle with it more in the spring, but maybe I'm wrong. I personally think, well, it's really not all that hot outside, but the house is my apartment's just blazing. But I got to turn the air on for that. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Ollie, calling in from the North Woods of Wisconsin. Ollie, turning on the heat or turning on the air? What's worse?
Well, I don't like it when they turn the air on, especially when you go to visit your doctor and you have to, unfortunately, disrobe for an exam, and so you're sitting there freezing, waiting for him to come in the room. And even the nurses and receptionists are walking around with long-sleeved shirts underneath their scrubs, so they must think it's worse too.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. If you have to get any sort of an exam in a doctor's office and you're sitting there freezing, that is no fun at all. So I hear you. Thanks, Ollie. Appreciate it. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Mike from Spring Green, Wisconsin. Beautiful Spring Green on WRCE. Mike, what's worse, turning on the heat or turning on the air?
Well, it's what it needs. And so turning on the air is better because...
So, Mike, you kind of cut out. Can you say that again? I think we're a better connection now. Go ahead. Mike, are you there? Mike is traveling in the hills of southwest Wisconsin, and I can tell you
I think we lost him.
that is back when I worked for my former boss, Dale Schultz. We always knew when he was either getting close to his farm or if he was on the way home. There's a certain spot where you hear, Todd, are you there, Todd? Bombay, come in. This is Rangoon.
Yeah, Mike, feel free to call back in. We can give it another shot in a moment.
Absolutely. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Our ongoing contributor and friend, Mr. Jeff Perry, watching on Facebook, says, what's worse, turning on the air. At our house, we have the 90-degree rule. No AC if the temp is 89 or under. Really? Really? That's astounding. No wonder. See, Jeff is a fiscal conservative, I believe. Where I get to my apartment and it's like 78 or whatever in the apartment. Psh, I'm turning the air on. And see, now I moved a couple of years ago. So in this building now, they have these, what are they called? Heat pumps or whatever. So they're like they're up towards the ceiling. It looks like it looks like a mini version of a hotel HVAC thing, only up higher towards the ceiling. And it's supposed to be very energy efficient. And it's a heat pump. So I don't have like a gas-powered furnace anymore. And neither do I have like a proper AC. It's all this heat pump stuff. And it's more difficult in these changing seasons to turn it on. But wow, Perry, 89 degrees, it has to be 90 or above before he turns the AC on.
Jeff, I'm not going to lie. I'm so glad I don't live with you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, for me, it's also medical reasons.
Right.
Like, if it's too hot
You'd
and I'm
pass
just
out.
sitting in there, I could pass out.
Right.
So for me, the AC goes on anytime it's above like 73.
You can't have a zombie. Zombers, not to make fun, but I mean, it's like one of those fainting goats. You can't have that.
Can't have that.
You
no.
can't have a fainting producer, for goodness sake.
Like, I can go outside and it's hot out and be okay. But if I'm sitting at home and it's 80 degrees in the house and I can't go somewhere to cool off, that's not going to work.
Now, Perry says the hotter the better, I say. What is he? He's running a sauna? Do they all sit around on bamboo benches and towels in his house?
Maybe.
What are they doing over there? Our friend and colleague Maggie Dawn, who has the great program After Hours, which will continue, by the way, on or about the 23rd of April. Congratulations to her. She says, hey, Todd, your friend Maggie here driving into the studio. What's worse is menopause.
Yeah.
Her words, not mine.
That will make neither one of those fun.
My sister would agree as a woman who is a certain age. But I, in that case, I'm so glad not to be female.
Yeah.
Because I've heard horror. Yeah, I mean, this is a very serious thing that Dr. Lyerly and others have done. Like Jane's done a show on it. This is a huge deal for women. But yeah, that's a whole other thing that we as men could never even begin to understand. And that also contributes to whether you're turning on the air or the heat. What's worse is the question, turning on the air or turning on the heat? Ziju, watching on YouTube, says, I live by the mantra, I could put more layers on, but I can only take so many off.
I say that all the time. Unless
you live in Jeff Perry's house. Apparently, I don't know. It's a colony of nudists down there. I don't know. I don't know why that's so funny to me. We're still workshopping. We're changing time slots on or about April 23rd ish. There have to be nudists, aren't there, in Wisconsin? There used to be the nude beach in Mazamani.
But I know there's the World Naked Bike Ride or whatever.
Oh, Lord, yeah. I'm not doing that. But wouldn't it be fascinating to do a show from a nudist colony and use like the little things where you have to fuzz out and everything like that.
That would involve a lot of extra work.
But I mean,
but it could be interesting.
It would be a fascinating show.
Do an interview, you know?
Right.
A little slice of life.
These are things we're working on. See, you can tell right here, the 2 to 4 time slot is going to be gold. Al, watching in Jackson, says, purely by the numbers turning on the heat, the bills are twice as much with the heat on. Well, that's a great point as well. All right, come back. We'll do a little bit more What's Worse and take a little bit more look at the news. You're listening to the Allbaugh Show right here on the Civic Media Radio Network.
It's getting hot in here, so take off all your clothes.
We're talking about nudists.
That was fantastic. That was one of your better bumpers of all time.
It fit perfectly.
It fit. Well, that's what she said. But you know,
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. School is looking a little different today for the second day in a row. The Madison Metropolitan School District is dealing with an internet outage. They had issues yesterday, too. It's affecting all MMSD locations. School did go on as normal today, but of course, teachers are having to change
I sent
a lot
you
of
the
the
thing in the
things
Canadian
they
Prime
usually
Minister.
do.
The
Teachers use the internet for all kinds of things these days, from attendance to curriculum to grading and communicating with families.
If
Now, district
anybody
leaders
knows
made it clear that there
where to
isn't any
find
problem with
the
their systems,
cut,
just with the internet
the song
connections needed
of
to
Jim Neighbors
access
singing
those
"Oh
systems.
Canada."
The
Let
Technical
me know.
Services Department is working
Jeff
to get
Perry played it
access
for me years
restored.
ago, but I think it might
And
have
it's
been like
Severe
on
Weather
VHS
Awareness
tape.
Week in Wisconsin,
Which, of
it's
course, is
already
still in his
tornado
attic
season.
somewhere.
They're most common here in May, June, and July.
Oh,
Now, one thing that often trips people up is the difference
we
between a
stand
watch
on
and a
guard for
warning.
thee.
Meteorologist Brittany Merlot explains.
Oh,
A tornado watch means that
Canada,
you need to be
we
prepared
stand
and ready
on
to
guard.
act quickly.
All right, I'll
It's when you
stop.
should keep an eye on the forecast and your heads up, especially if it's a hot and sunny, humid day, because that's the tornado's favorite beverage. It gulps up moisture in an instant, from puffy cotton ball clouds to spinning into a supercell. After it gains enough steam, a tornado may drop from it. And this is when a warning will be issued. It means that a tornado is on the ground and spotted by someone, or it's showing strong rotation on radar. Which that means reports of high winds whipping at the radar and away from it in a small space, indicating a tornado or at least a funnel cloud. Now, sometimes these don't produce anything but high winds, hail, and heavy downpours, and consider yourself lucky, because you should always take watches and warnings seriously. It means it's a time to stay weather savvy and have your plan ready for action.
We'll have more on Severe Weather Awareness Week over the next few days. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. This is 92.7 WMDX News.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. Happy Days are here again. The cast of the 70s sitcom reunited for the first time in 50 years at Steel City Con in Pittsburgh over the weekend. Ron Howard, Henry Winkler, Anson Williams, and Donnie Most all played Milwaukee teens on the show that was set in the 50s. The actors sounded thrilled to be together again and said it felt like yesterday that they were all filming the show. They are much older now and definitely look like they're all in their 70s, as opposed to when they were playing high schoolers and looked like they were only in their 30s. Woody Harrelson was being considered for a role on White Lotus Season 3, but passed it up for kind of a strange but admirable reason. The former Cheers and White Men Can't Jump actor says White Lotus changed their shooting schedule, which conflicted with a family vacation, so he had to move on. Although maybe the trip to Wally World was just an excuse to get out of doing an incest scene. For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlife.
I also
with me,
just sent
Pete
you
Schwaba,
the,
weeknights
in case you
from
didn't
6
have
to
it,
8
maybe you
p.m.
have
on
it in the
Civic Media
bank, but
Radio Network.
the scene Letterman, Trump talking about his ties or the whatever.
This is your local Civic Media radio station.
So we'll use the Prime Minister, and then we'll
Find all of it at
use this.
civicmedia.us.
The made in China
For sunny
ties.
today and comfortable, with calm winds and high temperatures reaching the low 40s. We'll see some clouds rolling in late tonight, and a wintry mix may be falling early tomorrow morning. Otherwise, spotty showers, mostly cloudy skies, and high temperatures warmer in the upper 40s. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Currently, it's 36 degrees.
Is your computer so slow you can hardly use it? Does it have blue screens, malware, viruses, reboots, hardware crashes? Sound familiar? Computers will have problems, and when they do,
Oh,
we need the ComputerWorks with Madison ComputerWorks. Every day we help homeowners and businesses keep their computers and networks running smoothly. For solutions to your computer problems, call
people are saying we tuned in for that,
and we'll turn this into this. Madison ComputerWorks. Computers that work for you.
Listen to the John and Gordy Show weekdays right here on WMDX, sponsored by Verlo Mattress. Sleep better, dream bigger on a handcrafted, locally made mattress. Find them on Madison's East and West Side or online at verlo.com.
You are never far away from your favorite radio station. We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app. And if you missed your favorite show or game, listen to a podcast of it anytime on the app or our website, civicmedia.us.
Jane Matnair and Greg Bach.
Coming up on this show.
Pursuing truth wherever it may lead and having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 34 now past the hour of 1 o'clock on Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. Zommers on the board. Glad to be along with you here as we wrap up today's What's Worse. What's worse, turning on the air or turning on the heat? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. What's worse, turning on the heat or turning on the air? Zommers, feelings, thoughts?
Yeah, definitely turning on the air because that means it's hot outside. And if I am at somebody else's house and they don't have the same temperature requirements, I'll say, as I do, it can be very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Al, maybe, I guess we did Al's right before the break there in Jackson, saying that simply by the numbers, the bills are twice as much when the heat is on. Tyler, listening in Columbia County on WMDX, says turning on the air is worse. Even though efficient, my AC isn't well located, so I still need fans to circulate, which at that rate, I just use a fan. All right. Matt in Middleton saying turning on the air as my system is very old and I have to say a prayer before turning it on. That's funny. I mean, yeah, a lot of folks, very expensive to replace. So with these tariffs now, going to be even more expensive to replace things like HVAC. Kurt, listening on WMDX in Madison, I guess the answer to the question depends on what time of year you're asking the question. Well said there. Steve in Lodi, listening on WMDX, says, does Steve from Sun Prairie have a last? Well, Steve in Sun Prairie was our big winner for the Verlo mattress. So I'm assuming if he's in Sun Prairie, the winner is in Sun Prairie, Steve. Steve in Lodi, probably not you.
Yes, you would already have been contacted.
Yeah, the winner has already been notified. So if you have not heard from us, you're not the winner this time. But there's going to be more great prizes coming up. Megan in Sun Prairie, by the way, sadly not the winner of the Verlo mattress. Listening on WMDX says, turning on the air is worse. Megan says, with the heat, I can leave the settings alone all winter. It's a lot harder to cool the house consistently, especially with Wisconsin's unpredictable weather. Well, that's true. And with global warming and climate change, it's even more unpredictable, right? Dana, listening in La Crosse, says, I hate turning on the heat or turning it to... Try that again, Todd. I hate having to turn on the heat. It generally means it'll be for the next 5 months or so. The air depends on how hot it is just for one day. Well, that's a great point too, right? Usually in the fall, when I turn my heat on, not always, but more often than not, I don't turn it back off. I might lower the temperature to it or whatever.
Right, but you just set it and forget it for the most part.
What is this? The new Emerald Lagasse steam fryer. Set it and forget it. No,
or bamboo steamer.
Or the bamboo steamer. Yeah, exactly. So there you go. There's some great. For me, I would say it's probably turning the air on in the spring is worse, just because it's like hot for a day, and so my apartment gets hot, and it's just even if I open up the windows, it's not enough. And then it's like, well, now I'm going to freeze my rear end off next week when it goes back to 30. I'll tell you that. I will tell you this. I have so far not turned on the air. Have you?
No.
All right. You had to think about it for a
I
second.
haven't changed it, and I don't think anybody else did. So I'm pretty sure we haven't used the air yet.
All right, very good. So that wraps up another edition of What's the Worst. We appreciate everybody playing along. 38 minutes past the hour of 1 o'clock. Breaking news this afternoon. Donald Trump back on a tariff tear. This is real. According to the White House, Trump will raise tariffs on China to get this 104% effective at midnight. China will almost certainly retaliate further. I mean, this is just ridiculous. And for people that say, well, you know, this is going to do some good. And by the way, there's one of these goofy, I shouldn't say goofy, but we're going to boycott Walmart this weekend. Big Walmart boycott to stick it to the corporations. And I think this one is supposedly over pulling back or rolling back DEI within Walmart or something like that. I'll just say this. I get the sentiment and appreciate that. But I think people who are calling on Walmart boycotts, A, it ain't going to have any effect on Walmart. And B, they're tone deaf to a lot of Wisconsinites. Take my hometown, for example, Richland Center, a town of 5,000 people, a county of 18,000. And there, in all of that area, in the county proper, I should say, there is one, what you would call full-scale grocery store, and that's Walmart in Richland Center.
You don't really have a choice.
You don't have a choice. Some people get their pharmaceuticals, their prescriptions, Walmart pharmacy. Life-saving, food, whatever. So people calling on, let's boycott Walmart for a week. I get the sentiment. But there are food deserts in this state, and a lot of people, Walmart's the only place they could go. To that point, next time you shop at Walmart or wherever you're going, I shop local when I can, but I'm not going to say I never shop Walmart. Look where things are made. I'll never forget this. Years ago, my former boss, Dale Schultz, and I were in San Francisco. Dale was getting, an award from the Sierra Club, a Republican, getting an award from the Sierra Club and fighting for conservation and environmental causes in Wisconsin when he stopped for a while Scott Walker's mining bill that gutted environmental laws in the state and stuck it to our native communities in northern Wisconsin. So the Sierra Club recognized him, and he took me with him because we needed press and stuff, and I was his press person. So we were out in San Francisco, and we took an afternoon and walked down by the Golden Gate Bridge, or at least within, and there are all these ships coming in, stacked stories high with shipping containers from China. And he said, Todd, take a good long look at that, because that will be the downfall of our economy. Look at how many things we rely on from China. And now the Trump administration, and I would much rather have these things made in America. Don't get me wrong. But you have to have a plan how you implement this long term. It has to be thought through. People who are just doing things without planning can be very destructive on a number of fronts. And if you think that Donald Trump really cares about things being made in America, let's go back to our mentor. I wish I could call him a friend. A guy who I look up to a lot in broadcasting, David Letterman, from the old Late Show on CBS, when he had Donald Trump on the show to talk about his Trump ties and Trump shirts at Macy's.
I have nothing against China. I just hate that their leaders are so much smarter than our leaders. 2016, we will not be the world leader anymore. We have been always. But in 2016, China becomes the great economic leader.
Even if Mitt Romney is elected, he says that
maybe you can turn it around.
Well, do you think he could turn it around?
I think we can.
Do you think Mitt Romney can turn it around?
I think he can.
As a line of clothing. Now, where were these made?
These were made, I don't know where they were made, but they were made someplace. But they're great. It's ties, shirts, cufflinks, everything sold at Macy's, and they're doing great. Number one selling tie anywhere in the world.
Number one selling
I don't know,
tie
normally
anywhere
I
in the
wouldn't
world.
wear
What,
that shirt,
you wouldn't wear that
we
shirt?
We also have them in white and beautiful white.
Where are the shirts made? Bangladesh.
Well, it's good.
Okay.
We employ people in Bangladesh.
Ties? Where are the ties
they
made?
Have to work
These are
too.
beautiful ties.
They are great ties.
The ties are made in where? China? Ties are made in China.
Well, I'll tell you, and you know what, David, in all fairness, I've been very open about that, and not all of them, by the way, but I've been very open about that. Are you okay? Is the
no,
chair
I'm
was
fine.
Made in China.
Yeah, I know.
The chair was made in
chair
China.
was made in China.
That's what Letterman was making a lot of fun there. And you can't, obviously, on the video, when Letterman points out all this stuff, is, these ties are made in China, Trump kind of does this kind of thing with his head where he goes, well, I guess I got caught. He doesn't care. All he cares about is making a money and a profit for Donald Trump. He's sticking it to American workers. He's sticking it to American consumers. And now if this stays put, 104% tariff on China and all the things we rely on right now as Chinese goods, it will crash the economy. It will crash the economy. And there are a number of people out there smarter than me who are saying, this might be intentional, by the way. Ziju, watching on YouTube, says our nation doesn't always have the means to support making everything here. Coffee, for example. We don't have the proper environment, unquote, from Ziju on YouTube. You're absolutely right. There's some mediocre coffee that's grown in Hawaii, as somebody who used to be in the coffee business. But yeah, all the great coffee in the world, the vast majority of coffee that Americans drink is not produced in the United States and, quite frankly, cannot be because of the environment. 855-752-4842. Let's go to the phone line. Dick listening on WMDX in Madison. Dick, thanks for calling. What say you?
Todd, this has gotten it's not even funny anymore. The guy has obviously totally lost his marbles. He belongs in the Rubber Wall Motel. It's just absolutely insane, the stuff he comes up with. 104%. Okay, great idea. And by the way, it's great that the stuff that he's hawking or was with Letterman back then made in sweatshops in third world countries. That's nice.
Right.
And he's all down with that.
Yeah.
But you know what I've decided what his real problem is? He seems to hate almost everyone. Mm-hmm. This guy has got the most massive, and his followers, persecution complex I've ever seen.
Mm. Well, he enjoys hanging around people like Xi and other dictators and Putin and that sort of thing.
He thinks, though, that everyone is against him, against us, and that's the definition of persecution complex. The guy's got it.
Thanks, Dick. Appreciate it. 855-752-4842. Let's do the cut here first. This is the Prime Minister the new Prime Minister, by the way, the Liberal new Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney. And here is a recent rally, this is why I alluded to earlier, telling Canadians about Americans.
We are fighting the Americans. We are fighting the Americans everywhere they understand. We're fighting the Americans in the pocketbook. We have retaliatory tariffs on them. We just hit them again in the auto sector. We're fighting them on Fox News, which is what they understand. We're sending Doug Ford onto Fox News to show them that we're not messing around up here. And we're going to send Danielle next. Maybe we won't send Danielle. We're going to send Danielle. No, maybe we won't. We won't send Danielle.
Don't send Danielle.
We're going to keep
the Canadian Prime Minister there. But I mean, did you ever think in your lifetime you would hear the leader of Canada talking about sticking it to Americans as the enemy? That is 100% the fault of Donald Trump. He caused this. In sports, an unforced error. The economy going to hell. People losing thousands, tens of thousands in their retirement accounts. It is all unnecessary, forced by Donald Trump. 855-752-4842. Go quickly to Los Angeles, California. LA Tom got about a minute and a half left. No, minute 10. Go ahead.
Yeah, Trump is a crybaby, victim, everything that apparently the Republican Party was never supposed to be. It's supposed to take personal responsibility, never has done that. And, I think what we need to start doing is following Franklin Delano Roosevelt's playbook on the Democratic side and for any Americans that care. And since Donald Trump is following the Hitler playbook on his side, because honestly, I don't know if you can tell me, Todd, how a president would act any differently if they weren't a Russian asset. And you have Ron Johnson and you have a bunch of senators on July 4th, 2018. Where were they on America's birthday? In Russia.
In Russia, right.
So wake up, America.
Thanks, L.A. I appreciate it. Up against the clock. Got Susan in McFarland next. We see you on the lines, as Matt Flynn says. Do not hang up. Back to wrap up the show next on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Madison's Real News and Great Conversation, 92.7 WMDX.
Time for the Eco Minute, powered by Clean Wisconsin, your environmental voice since 1970. I'm Amy Barrio. The Public Service Commission of Wisconsin taking the unusual step of extending its public comment deadline on a proposed methane gas power plant in Oak Creek. That's after We Energy's customers packed a recent public hearing on the plant. Many are worried about air pollution, climate impacts, and the eye-opening price tag. We Energies wants to spend more than $1 billion. The public now has through April 7th to weigh in. The city of Green Bay joining forces with AmeriCorps on a major Earth Day event to spruce things up ahead of the NFL draft coming to Titletown later this month. Hundreds of volunteers will work on conservation projects at Bay Beach Wildlife Sanctuary, including tree planting, trail system improvements, invasive species removal, and park cleanup. Knowledge is power. For a deep dive into environmental issues across Wisconsin, check out my Defender podcast at cleanwisconsin.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
Keeping you connected to your local community with real news and great conversation. Here's Terry Barr with the Civic Media Radio Network.
It's a special anniversary for Mama Cares, part of the Madison Area Music Association. The nonprofit supports musicians and their families facing emergencies. Here's singer-songwriter
Jeff Perry
Robert
says
J.
on
He
Facebook,
helped start
I
the
love
group
Mark
after his
Carney
own family
on the old
died
Honeymooners
when his
show.
son ended up in the hospital.
They hospitalized
Wasn't that
him and
Ed,
realized
Jeff? Wasn't
he
that
had
Ed?
a golf ball size infection in his left temporal lobe and operated immediately. He was in the hospital for 17 days.
That's a great line. Thank you. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network, where it is 9 before the hour of 2 o'clock at the top of the hour, ABC or CBS News, depending upon which of the great stations you're listening to us on across Civic Media, across Wisconsin. A weather update by our great weather team. The fantastic Mike Clemens comes on with a wonderful sports report. The Brewers, by the way, the Brewers are in Colorado, Denver, for a 3-game series with the Colorado Rockies. The first of those games starts tonight. Pre-game show at 7:05. Broadcast start. You can hear it in Richland Center, Oshkosh, Racine, Kenosha, Park Falls, and now in Hayward across the Brewers Radio Network. Remember, we cannot stream the Brewers on the Civic Media app because Major League Baseball says no. And they would send people after us. We don't want that. But you can hear it across the broadcast network on those select stations. Be listening to Brewers baseball tonight. And then after the sports update with Clemens, you got Maggie Dawn and the great Maggie Dawn show now from 2 until 4, which will now be the new home time slot for the Allbaugh show. And the Dawn show will be 4 to 6. Sometime in April, on or about the 23rd of April-ish. So that's the one thing that's staying the same. It's us, and then it's Maggie. So they're just moving back a couple of hours, starting on or about April 23rd ish. Right now, talking about the Canadian Prime Minister and the now breaking this afternoon. The White House says Trump is going to put the tariffs on China to 104%.
You know,
104%.
Speaking of whether it's worse to have the heat on or the air on, I really would not want him controlling the thermostat. He'd be like, set it to 100 degrees, and then in the afternoon, set it to 3.
Right. Up and down all the time. And we joke around about it, but the realistic thing is, look, I would love to have more products made in America. But that takes time and planning, right?
And some things just can't.
And so, right. And to the caller's point, coffee, chocolate, there are certain things you can't raise in the United States. So what the really hard thing is that places in rural parts of Wisconsin, and I would argue some more urban places in Wisconsin, a Walmart may be your only option in terms of groceries, or with Walmart delivering a lot of things, they have a delivery service for people who are shut in, who are elderly, who don't have a driver's license. That's your only option for food or for goods. And now the Trump administration is going to raise the prices, in some cases beyond the scope of affordability for some things, for some folks. And the realistic consequences to Wisconsinites' everyday lives ain't going to happen tomorrow. But it's going to happen over the course of time, some places sooner, some places later. But if this keeps dragging out, and Trump is saying it's going to, Wisconsinites are going to be hurting big time. And now you have the Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, because of all this Trump stuff, saying, we're going to stick it to the Americans. 855-752-4842. Let's go quickly to Susan in McFarland, listening on WMDX. Susan, thanks for calling. What's the?
Oh, I was just going to say that I never shop at Walmart, and part of the reason I don't is because they don't provide health care. They don't really provide good wages, and they are part of the reason why we have food deserts in this country. But having said that, we can't go back. My only point is Trump is really trying to do this. He's trying to make the economy so bad that he's going to say only the corporations can fix it. Mm-hmm. And so he can take over the whole country. That is my thoughts on this process.
I basically agree with both your points. I would just simply say I don't disagree with your first point that Walmart might not be the ideal employer, but there are places in Wisconsin where if it wasn't for a Walmart, some folks would be even more so underemployed or unemployed. And for some folks, it is at least a form of catastrophic type of health care. And, it's one thing for folks, I'm not saying you, Susan, but it's one thing for folks to say, well, we should just stop shopping at Walmart because it's not ideal. Sure, it's not ideal. But for some places in Wisconsin, that's the only choice we have right now. And again, to change that takes time. When I can, when the product is available and I have the time to do it, I will go out of my way to shop at a local True Value or a local Ace Hardware. I find those folks, generally speaking, not always, but more informed on the product. But am I going to tell you I never shop at Walmart? No. Sometimes just for quickness and convenience, you go there. 855-752-4842. Jack in Merrimack, where the ferry is now open. Jack, how are you?
Yes, peachy keen. Beautiful day out here, man.
That's great. I wish I was there with you, my friend. What do you got for us?
Okay, well, first of all, people need to understand one other thing about these tariffs. That is, if a company has a 5% profit margin and you jack up 100% tariff on whatever they're getting that profit on, it's going to be actually 105% because they're not going to drop their margin just because the price is increased. Mm-hmm. And so, it's actually, kind of dumping misery on misery.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted The
Quickly.
other thing I wanted to say is this. I disagree with you on coffee. I think Kona coffee is which is Hawaiian, is among the best coffees made. I get it whenever I possibly can, and that's by an American too, by the way.
Yeah, great call, Jack. I appreciate it. No, I mean, nothing wrong with Kona coffee, but they can't grow enough in Hawaii for the amount of coffee that Americans consume. Great show today. Many thanks to everybody who called in. Many thanks to Pat Kreitlow and Aaron Zommers and all of you. We'll be back tomorrow. Stay tuned for Maggie Dawn Now. Whatever you're fighting for, whatever you believe in, this is Todd saying, keep banging your drum. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. We didn't have time for this, but a texter says, I've watched Walmart kill local grocery stores and snuff out the choices at all.
Yeah, like they're the only choice in a lot of places, and it's because they
I get it. I get that, but it's like, okay, but what are people like my mom, for instance, a 77-year-old woman, she's supposed to, and sometimes, quite frankly, she does drive 45 minutes to buy groceries somewhere else, but not every retired person is able to do that.
Yeah,
So-
it's unfortunate, but boycotting is not the solution because we literally can't.
Yeah,
Or a
for
lot
some
of
places,
people literally can't.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, great show, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful afternoon. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.